Today we're going to introduce you to the new seat tools that have been designed to make tech a lot easier for the tech inspectors regarding to the depth of the cut of the lower part of the seat. The tools are right here. This is the intake and this is the exhaust. There's also two other tools. They were designed way before. Checks the length of the valve guide. I'll show you how that, and whether or not they cut the pocket where the spring rides, and I'll show you that. First thing is, we'll go right to the seat tools. And again, these tools are strictly designed for the purpose of making sure that the seat is not cut too deep. Put the tool in with its pilot in the valve guide and push down on it. And if you cannot spin it, it is deemed to be legal. On the other head, you'll notice that when I put it in here, push down on it, and it spins, okay? It spins. You do the same thing with the exhaust side. Put it in the guide, set it down, a little bit of pressure, and it will not turn. Go over to the other head that we know isn't right. Put it in, and you'll notice that it spins. Another thing about the tool, okay? We'll move the exhaust out of the way. If we go in the port and we take a look at the port itself, you'll notice that on the head that is legal, the tool does not sit down on the valve guide. Okay? So that's one of the reasons that we know that the seat is legal, because that tool isn't sitting on the valve guide. On the other side of the coin, let's go to the one that isn't quite right. Set it up here. You'll notice that that tool is sitting right down on the valve guide, right on it. And that's keeping it up away from the seat where the cut is, which determines the length of that cut in that seat. Now, what are people going to do when they make a mistake and they cut that seat too deep in order to get it legal again? Well, the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to try to drive the valve guide itself up away from there. And if they do that, okay, this is the tool that's used that goes in and sits on top of that. And that has to sit flush on the floor 360 degrees. Now, that originally was designed to keep people from cutting that spring pocket where the spring sets down any deeper than what it was from the factory, okay? The next thing that they will do is they'll try to drive that valve guide up out of there, and this measures the length of the guide. Measures the length of the guide. If they try to cut that guide down instead of driving it upwards, that pin will extend itself through that valve guide, and you'll be able to tell that someone tried to manipulate that. Okay. Here's another thing. If they try to drive that up out of there, this pin sets below this gasket surface just enough that you put a flat stock on here and you can slide it across without touching it. If they try to alter that valve guide in order to make their seat job legal because they messed up, and they move that valve guide upwards, and you put the bar stock on there and slide it across, it'll strike that pin. It is not allowed to strike the pin. So those are the tools that are designed for the purpose of identifying the legality of the valve seat. Again, the only thing we're measuring below the 60 cut is the depth of how far that cut goes down. in the 2021 rules, we wrote a rule that said that the D-shaped portion of the ports, both the intake and the exhaust, were not allowed to be radiused. If you take a look at this port here, you'll notice that there is a defined edge, and that's what the rule book says. As compared to known stock part, the D shape of that port must have a defined edge. What is a defined edge? Well, if you take your finger, you can actually feel sharpness of that cut when they made that cut across there. If you look at the head over here, you'll notice that there is no actual defined edge, that inside edge has been actually radiused. And if you took your finger and went in there, you would notice that it's really smooth. All the way around, that baby is really smooth. There's even a section down in this corner where you can see how they radiused that section of the port itself. Now, on the carburetor side, it's really not a big deal, but it's still a rule written. So, you know, you can get tossed for that. On the exhaust side, for those who are gasket matching, that could become problematic. And because we don't want anybody to fool with that area of the ports, that is why we have that written rule in there. Just wanted to bring it to your attention that the rule does exist.